The courtroom was alive with a mixture of tension and curiosity. People whispered to one another, shifting in their seats, glancing occasionally at the teenager who stood nervously near the defendant's table. At first glance, he looked no different from any other young person who might have been attending court to observe. His clothes were simple, a plain shirt and jeans, and his hands fidgeted slightly as he clutched a small folder containing his notes. He was quiet, almost shy, and his eyes darted around the room, taking in the judge, the lawyers, and the few spectators who were present. The judge presiding over the case was a stern figure, with an expression that could make even the most confident lawyer hesitate. He had seen many defendants, attorneys, and witnesses over the years, and his courtroom had a reputation for being intimidating. He was a man who valued order, precision, and respect above all else, and he had little patience for anyone he considered inexperienced or unprepared. As the session began, the judge's eyes fell on the teenager. He raised an eyebrow and let out a small, dismissive sigh. "And who do we have here?" he asked, his tone dripping with skepticism. "A young man barely out of school standing before this court as if he has any business here." The teenager looked up, his lips pressed together, and nodded politely. He did not respond immediately, choosing instead to let the judge continue. The murmurs in the courtroom grew louder as people were intrigued by the presence of someone so young in such a serious setting. The defense attorney, seated beside the teenager, offered a small, reassuring nod, encouraging him to remain composed. The judge leaned back in his chair and continued, his voice cutting through the tension in the room. "I hope you realize the seriousness of being in this courtroom. This is not a place for idle chatter or games. You must understand the gravity of what is happening here." The teenager swallowed nervously, feeling the weight of the judge's words. He had been in high-pressure situations before, but nothing quite like this. The room seemed to shrink around him, and for a moment, he felt the familiar surge of doubt that anyone might feel when confronted with authority figures who underestimate them. Yet, beneath the surface there was a calmness, a small, quiet confidence that told him he belonged there, even if no one else realized it yet. The case itself involved a misunderstanding that had escalated into legal action. The details were complex, and the teenager had spent countless hours studying every aspect of it. He had prepared meticulously, knowing that every fact, every document, and every word could make a difference. He had read the case files repeatedly, memorized key points, and thought through every possible question the opposing counsel might ask. Despite his outward appearance of nervousness, he was ready. The judge, noticing the teenager's silence, leaned forward and raised his voice slightly. "Do you have something to say for yourself?" he asked, his tone skeptical and slightly mocking. "Or are you here just to waste the court's time?" The teenager took a deep breath, straightened his posture, and began to speak. His voice was clear, calm, and measured. He started by stating his name and role in the proceedings, keeping his words precise and formal. The courtroom grew silent, everyone listening closely to see what he would do next. There was a curiosity in the air, a sense that something unexpected might happen. As he continued, he presented the first piece of evidence. His understanding of the case was evident, and his ability to reference legal procedures and past precedents caught the attention of both the judge and the attorneys present. The judge's eyebrows rose slightly, a subtle sign that he was starting to reconsider his initial assumptions. The spectators shifted in their seats, some leaning forward, captivated by the poise and clarity of the teenager's argument. Despite the initial intimidation, the teenager remained composed. He spoke with a confidence that seemed to grow with every word, carefully explaining the facts, the context, and the relevance of each document. He anticipated questions before they were asked, and addressed potential counter-arguments with calm precision. Each point he made was backed by thorough research and a deep understanding of legal principles. The judge, who had begun the session ready to dismiss the teenager as inexperienced, now found himself watching closely. There was a mixture of surprise, curiosity, and even a hint of respect forming in his expression. He had not expected such competence from someone so young, and it challenged his preconceptions. The courtroom atmosphere began to shift. Where there had been skepticism and doubt, there was now intrigue and attention. People whispered among themselves, marveling at how someone who appeared so ordinary could command such knowledge and presence. The teenager's calm demeanor and articulate speech made it clear that he was more than just a young observer. He was an active participant who could hold his own in this challenging environment. As the session continued, the teenager carefully navigated through the initial stages of the case. He answered questions from the judge and opposing counsel with clarity and composure, never showing signs of frustration or fear. His ability to remain collected under pressure impressed everyone, and slowly, the murmurs of doubt began to fade. The judge, now fully attentive, leaned forward and asked a more complex question, testing the teenager's understanding of legal principles and the nuances of the case. The teenager responded with ease, citing precedents and legal reasoning that were sophisticated and insightful. The courtroom fell silent again, this time with admiration rather than skepticism. It was clear to everyone present that this was not just any teenager. Behind the youthful appearance was a mind capable of navigating complex legal challenges with remarkable skill. The initial impression of vulnerability and inexperience was fading, replaced by recognition of exceptional talent. By the end of the first part of the session, the teenager had successfully established his presence in the courtroom. He had shown that he was knowledgeable, composed, and capable of handling the pressures of legal proceedings. The judge, though still reserved, had begun to acknowledge the teenager's abilities, and the audience was left in anticipation, eager to see how the rest of the case would unfold. The courtroom, once filled with doubt and underestimation, now buzzed with curiosity and intrigue. The teenager had proven that appearances could be deceiving, and that true skill and intelligence could emerge from the most unexpected places. The session concluded with a sense of suspense, leaving everyone wondering what other surprises this remarkable young individual might reveal as the case progressed. The courtroom seemed to hold its breath as the teenager prepared to make his case. He had already captured the attention of everyone present, but now it was time to show the depth of his knowledge and skill. He opened his folder carefully and pulled out a set of documents, each one marked with notes that he had painstakingly written in preparation for this moment. His hands were steady, his posture calm, and his eyes focused, revealing a confidence that contradicted his youthful appearance. The opposing counsel, a seasoned attorney known for his sharp wit and relentless questioning, looked the teenager up and down. He seemed ready to pounce, thinking that he could overwhelm this young person with complex legal jargon. However, the teenager had anticipated this. He had studied the style of every lawyer involved and had prepared responses that were both precise and strategic. He was ready not just to respond, but to guide the direction of the discussion. The teenager began by laying out the facts of the case in a clear, structured manner. He spoke slowly and deliberately, ensuring that every point was understood. He emphasized the most important aspects, connecting them to relevant legal principles and precedents. His language was simple enough to be accessible to everyone in the courtroom, yet sophisticated enough to convey his deep understanding of the law. The judge, who had started the session with skepticism, leaned forward in his chair. He was no longer dismissive, now he was curious. The judge asked a question about a technical detail, one that could have tripped up even experienced lawyers. The teenager responded confidently, explaining the matter with clarity and supporting his explanation with documented evidence. The courtroom fell silent as everyone absorbed the thoroughness of his answer. Throughout the session, the teenager anticipated challenges and counter-arguments. When the opposing counsel tried to point out what he thought were inconsistencies in the teenager's reasoning, the teenager calmly addressed them one by one. He acknowledged the points, explained the context, and demonstrated how the overall argument remained strong. His ability to handle pressure without showing frustration or irritation impressed both the judge and the spectators. As the case progressed, it became evident that the teenager had a remarkable ability to think several steps ahead. He could predict questions before they were asked and had solutions ready for potential problems. His preparation was meticulous, but it was his intelligence and quick thinking that truly set him apart. Even the opposing counsel, who had initially assumed he would easily dominate the proceedings, began to show signs of respect, though it was carefully concealed behind a professional demeanor. One of the key moments came when the teenager presented a piece of evidence that seemed minor at first glance, but turned out to be crucial. He explained its relevance in a way that was logical, convincing, and easy to follow. The judge paused, taking notes, clearly impressed by the insight and precision. The spectators leaned forward, sensing that this young individual was not just competent but extraordinary. The teenager also demonstrated empathy and awareness of the human aspects of the case. He acknowledged the feelings and concerns of those affected, balancing his logical arguments with compassion. This combination of intelligence and humanity made his presentation more persuasive and relatable, capturing the attention and respect of everyone present. The session continued with exchanges that were both tense and fascinating. The opposing counsel attempted several strategies to challenge the teenager, but each time, the teenager countered with a combination of reason, evidence, and careful thought. He never resorted to arrogance or aggression, instead relying on calm, strategic communication. The judge, who had begun the day with doubts, now appeared genuinely impressed, observing closely and occasionally nodding in approval. As the morning wore on, the courtroom atmosphere transformed. What had started as a setting of doubt and skepticism had shifted into one of engagement and anticipation. Everyone present was curious to see how this young person would continue to navigate the complexities of the case. His approach was methodical yet dynamic, demonstrating a balance of preparation, intelligence, and adaptability that was rare even among experienced attorneys. During a particularly challenging moment, the opposing counsel attempted to introduce a new piece of information that could have complicated the teenager's argument. The teenager listened carefully, taking a brief moment to consider the implications. Then he addressed the information directly, integrating it into his overall argument in a way that strengthened his position rather than weakening it. The courtroom reacted with a mixture of surprise and admiration. It was clear that he was not only capable of handling unexpected challenges, but could also turn them to his advantage. Throughout the session, the teenager maintained a demeanor that was both respectful and assertive. He understood the importance of courtroom etiquette, yet he was not afraid to stand his ground when necessary. His interactions with the judge and opposing counsel were professional, yet marked by a quiet confidence that revealed his exceptional abilities. The judge, now fully attentive, recognized that the teenager's youth was not a limitation but a contrast to his extraordinary competence. As the session drew to a close, the teenager summarized his points with clarity and precision. He reinforced the key aspects of his argument, ensuring that the judge and all present were left with a clear understanding of the case from his perspective. The judge nodded, impressed by the structure and depth of the presentation, while the spectators exchanged glances, acknowledging the unexpected brilliance they had witnessed. By the end of this part of the case, the teenager had transformed the perception of everyone in the courtroom. Initial skepticism had given way to respect, curiosity, and even a sense of admiration. He had demonstrated not only his knowledge of the law, but also his ability to think strategically, communicate effectively, and maintain composure under pressure. The opposing counsel, though still professional, could not hide the realization that they were facing a unique and formidable mind. The teenager's performance had shown that intelligence and capability are not always visible on the surface. His calm demeanor, meticulous preparation, and insightful reasoning had created an atmosphere of engagement and anticipation. The courtroom was now alive with the energy of a story unfolding, one in which a young person had defied expectations and demonstrated the remarkable potential hidden beneath an ordinary exterior. As everyone prepared to take a short recess, there was a sense of anticipation for what would come next. The teenager had laid the foundation for a remarkable case, capturing the attention of the judge, the attorneys, and the spectators alike. The morning session had shown that appearances could be deceiving, and that brilliance could emerge from the most unexpected places. The story was far from over, and the courtroom waited eagerly to see how this young individual would continue to challenge assumptions and reveal his true abilities. After the short recess, the courtroom reconvened, and the tension in the room seemed even thicker than before. Everyone present knew that something extraordinary was unfolding, but no one could predict exactly what would happen next. The teenager returned to his place at the table, calm and composed, ready to continue his presentation. The previous sessions had revealed his knowledge and skill, but now it was time for him to demonstrate a depth of understanding that would astonish the entire courtroom. The opposing counsel, now visibly cautious, attempted to regain control of the proceedings. He asked pointed questions, designed to unsettle the teenager and highlight any weakness in his argument. However, the teenager anticipated these tactics. He responded with careful reasoning, referencing legal precedents and documented facts that reinforced his position. Each answer was precise, leaving little room for counter-arguments. The courtroom, which had once buzzed with doubt, now hung on every word he spoke. The judge, who had initially been skeptical, watched intently. His expression showed a mixture of surprise and growing respect. He began asking questions that tested not only the teenager's knowledge of the case, but also his ability to think critically under pressure. The teenager answered each question with clarity and poise, demonstrating an analytical mind capable of handling complex legal concepts. It became evident that he was not just knowledgeable, but truly exceptional in his understanding of the law. A pivotal moment occurred when the teenager was asked to explain a particularly complicated point in the case. The opposing counsel expected hesitation or a faltering response, but the teenager did something unexpected. He paused briefly, then began to explain the issue in a way that simplified the complexity without losing its substance. His explanation was so clear and logical that the judge nodded appreciatively, and even the opposing counsel seemed momentarily speechless. The spectators in the courtroom leaned forward, captivated by the young individual who had turned a challenging question into an opportunity to shine. As the session continued, the teenager introduced a piece of evidence that had been overlooked by the others. He explained its relevance in a manner that connected the facts to the legal principles guiding the case. The judge's eyes widened slightly, realizing the significance of this revelation. The courtroom was silent, everyone absorbing the impact of the teenager's insight. It was a turning point, a moment when the true extent of his abilities became undeniable. The teenager's approach was not just intellectual, it was human. He acknowledged the perspectives and concerns of those involved in the case, demonstrating empathy alongside his legal reasoning. This balance of intellect and humanity made his arguments more persuasive and relatable. The judge, now fully engaged, began to see him not just as a participant, but as a remarkable force capable of guiding the proceedings with wisdom and integrity. Throughout the session, the teenager displayed a level of strategic thinking that was rare for someone of his apparent age. He anticipated challenges, prepared counterarguments, and navigated unexpected developments with skill and composure. When the opposing counsel attempted to introduce a complex objection, the teenager addressed it calmly and thoroughly, transforming a potential setback into an opportunity to strengthen his case. The courtroom atmosphere shifted again, from curiosity to genuine admiration. The most dramatic moment came when the teenager revealed a key piece of information that had been hidden in plain sight. He carefully outlined its importance, connecting it to the broader narrative of the case. The judge leaned forward, clearly impressed as the significance became undeniable. The opposing counsel, despite years of experience, could not easily dismiss the logic and clarity of the teenager's reasoning. The spectators whispered among themselves, realizing they were witnessing something extraordinary. At that point, the teenager did something no one expected. With calm precision, he revealed his true identity. He was not just a teenager attending or assisting in the courtroom. He was a genius attorney, working undercover to test legal strategies and observe courtroom dynamics from an unexpected perspective. The revelation sent a wave of shock through the room. The judge's eyes widened, and the opposing counsel momentarily paused, stunned by the disclosure. Spectators murmured in disbelief, their initial assumptions shattered. The courtroom was silent for a moment, the weight of the revelation settling in. The teenager had not only demonstrated his exceptional knowledge and skill, but had also challenged everyone's preconceptions about age, experience, and capability. The judge, now fully aware of the truth, regarded him with a mixture of astonishment and newfound respect. The opposing counsel, though maintaining professional composure, could not hide the recognition that they were dealing with a truly extraordinary mind. From that moment on, the dynamics of the courtroom shifted dramatically. The teenager-turned-attorney continued his presentation, now without the burden of concealment. He navigated the case with even greater confidence, seamlessly integrating legal principles, evidence, and strategic thinking. His arguments were sharper, his reasoning more persuasive, and his ability to communicate complex ideas in an accessible manner left everyone in awe. The judge, humbled by the revelation, began to ask more nuanced questions, engaging with the teenager in a way that highlighted mutual respect. The opposing counsel, while still presenting objections and challenges, did so with a sense of acknowledgement, recognizing the unique talent they were confronting. The spectators, previously skeptical, were now fully captivated, witnessing a rare display of brilliance, composure, and human intelligence in action. Throughout the remainder of the session, the teenager demonstrated that his true abilities extended beyond knowledge alone. He showed intuition, empathy, and strategic foresight, anticipating every twist and turn of the proceedings. He balanced logic with humanity, ensuring that the legal arguments were not just technically sound, but also morally and ethically grounded. The courtroom had become a stage where intellect and character were on full display, leaving a lasting impression on everyone present. By the end of this part of the case, the teenager had fully established himself as a formidable presence in the courtroom. His revelation had changed the perceptions of the judge, the opposing counsel, and the spectators. What had begun as skepticism and doubt had transformed into respect, admiration, and even a sense of wonder. The teenager had shown that true talent and intelligence are not limited by age or appearance, and that extraordinary abilities can emerge from unexpected places. The session concluded with a sense of anticipation and suspense. Everyone in the courtroom understood that the case was far from over, and that the young attorney still had more to reveal. The atmosphere was charged with curiosity and excitement as the extraordinary journey of a teenager in disguise continued to unfold. The story of intelligence, strategy, and human insight had reached a remarkable turning point, leaving everyone eager to witness the next chapter. The courtroom felt electric as the teenager prepared to continue. The revelation of his true identity had sent waves of shock through everyone present. The judge, previously stern and skeptical, now leaned forward with curiosity and a touch of admiration. The opposing counsel, though professional, displayed subtle signs of respect, recognizing that they were facing a truly exceptional mind. Spectators whispered among themselves, fascinated by the unfolding drama. The teenager began to outline the final stages of his argument. His approach was methodical yet fluid. He connected all the evidence, testimony, and legal principles into a cohesive narrative that left no gaps. His ability to simplify complex ideas without losing depth impressed everyone. He spoke clearly, slowly, and deliberately, ensuring that every point was understood and appreciated. He revisited key pieces of evidence, showing their significance in the context of the case. Each document, witness statement, and precedent was examined carefully, with the teenager highlighting connections that others had overlooked. His explanations were logical and precise, but also accessible, allowing the spectators to follow along without feeling lost. This combination of clarity and depth made his presentation compelling and engaging. The judge, now fully attentive, asked probing questions to test the teenager's reasoning. Each time, the teenager responded with confidence and composure, demonstrating a keen understanding of both legal theory and practical application. His answers were not just correct. They were insightful, offering perspectives that even experienced lawyers might not have considered. The courtroom atmosphere shifted from curiosity to genuine engagement. As everyone listened intently, the opposing counsel attempted to challenge the teenager, introducing complex objections and hypotheticals. The teenager addressed each one calmly and strategically, using evidence and logic to dismantle potential weaknesses. He anticipated counter-arguments and preemptively addressed them, showing foresight and preparation. Even when the questions were difficult, he maintained his composure, never appearing rushed or flustered. His demeanor was professional yet approachable, blending authority with relatability. At one point, the teenager highlighted a subtle discrepancy in the opposing argument, something that had been missed by everyone else. He explained it clearly and connected it to the broader implications of the case. The judge paused, taking notes and nodding slightly, clearly impressed by the depth of analysis. The opposing counsel recognized the significance but could do little to counter the logical clarity of the teenager's reasoning. The spectators leaned forward, captivated by the unfolding brilliance. Throughout the proceedings, the teenager demonstrated not only intellectual ability, but also empathy and awareness of the human impact of the case. He acknowledged the emotions and concerns of those involved, showing that his arguments were grounded not just in law but in understanding. This human-centric approach made his reasoning more persuasive and meaningful, as it connected legal principles to real-world consequences. The courtroom, once a place of tension and skepticism, now felt engaged and connected to the story he was presenting. As the session progressed, the teenager synthesized all the elements of the case into a final, powerful argument. He summarized the evidence, clarified the legal principles, and addressed potential objections, leaving no room for doubt. His words were compelling, resonating with the judge, the opposing counsel, and the spectators alike. The clarity, precision, and insight of his argument created a sense of resolution, signaling that the case was approaching its conclusion. The judge, visibly impressed, acknowledged the teenager's performance. He commended the young attorney for his preparation, reasoning, and composure. The courtroom, which had initially doubted the teenager, now recognized him as an extraordinary individual, capable of handling complex legal challenges with skill and integrity. The opposing counsel, while maintaining professionalism, also conveyed respect for the teenager's abilities. The teenager's impact extended beyond the technicalities of the case. He had transformed the courtroom dynamic, challenging assumptions about age, experience, and capability. His performance demonstrated that intelligence, preparation, and empathy are not constrained by outward appearances. He had shown that true skill lies in understanding, reasoning, and communication, qualities that could command respect regardless of age. As the final arguments concluded, the judge prepared to make a ruling. He reflected on the clarity, precision, and insight presented by the teenager. The courtroom, once filled with doubt and skepticism, was now attentive and respectful, aware that they had witnessed something extraordinary. The teenager's calm and measured demeanor had left a lasting impression, and his mastery of the case had earned recognition from everyone present. When the ruling was announced, it reflected the strength and validity of the teenager's arguments. Justice had been served, with the decision aligning with the clear presentation and reasoning provided by the young attorney. The judge praised the teenager for his exceptional performance, highlighting both his intellectual and human qualities. The courtroom erupted in quiet acknowledgement, with spectators and attorneys recognizing the remarkable journey they had witnessed. In the aftermath, the teenager's composure and insight became a point of discussion among the attendees. The story of the young attorney who had defied expectations, revealed extraordinary talent, and guided the court with skill and empathy spread quickly. The experience highlighted the importance of preparation, clarity, and understanding, as well as the power of human-centric reasoning in even the most technical settings. The teenager's success in the courtroom demonstrated that exceptional ability often lies beneath the surface. His performance had challenged assumptions, reshaped perceptions, and inspired those who observed him. The judge, the opposing counsel, and the spectators all left the courtroom with a renewed appreciation for intelligence, preparation, and the human qualities that enhance legal practice. As the courtroom emptied, the teenager remained composed, reflecting quietly on the proceedings. The experience had tested his skills, challenged his assumptions, and ultimately affirmed his abilities. He had navigated complex legal terrain, handled pressure with grace, and demonstrated both intellectual and human excellence. The story of his performance would be remembered, not only for the legal outcome but for the remarkable presence, insight, and character he had displayed throughout the process. After the case concluded, the courtroom slowly emptied, but the air remained charged with the memory of what had just occurred. Spectators, attorneys, and even the judge carried with them the weight of the extraordinary events they had witnessed. The teenager, once underestimated and doubted, had now left an indelible mark on everyone present. His composure, intelligence, and empathy had transformed the proceedings from a simple legal matter into a lesson about human potential and the dangers of judging by appearances. The judge sat for a moment, reflecting quietly on the session. He had always prided himself on his fairness, his knowledge, and his ability to assess people quickly. Yet he realized that he had been wrong to underestimate the teenager. The boy's insight, strategic thinking, and calm demeanor had proven not only his intellectual ability, but also his moral and human understanding. The judge's respect for him had grown immensely, and he felt humbled to have witnessed such extraordinary talent. Outside the courtroom, conversations erupted among the spectators. People discussed the teenager's brilliance, his confidence, and the surprising revelation of his true identity. Many were inspired, sharing how the young attorney had defied expectations and demonstrated that appearances could be deceiving. Parents, students, and professionals alike reflected on the importance of recognizing potential and not dismissing talent simply because it comes from an unexpected place. The opposing counsel, who had initially entered the courtroom confident in their experience and strategy, was now deeply impressed. The challenges posed by the teenager had tested even their seasoned skills, and the way he handled every obstacle with calm and logic left a lasting impression. They acknowledged privately that facing such an opponent had been both humbling and inspiring, reminding them that brilliance can come from anyone, regardless of age. As the teenager collected his notes and prepared to leave, he remained calm, unassuming, and thoughtful. Despite the recognition and admiration from those around him, he did not seek praise or attention. His focus remained on the principles of the law, the importance of fairness, and the responsibility that came with knowledge. There was a quiet maturity in his demeanor, a sense that he understood the significance of his actions without needing validation from others. Reflecting on the events, it was clear that the teenager had achieved more than just a legal victory. He had shifted perceptions, challenged biases, and inspired everyone present. His intelligence was matched by his humility, and his courage lay not just in his knowledge but in his ability to stand firm in the face of doubt and underestimation. He had shown that true talent could not be hidden by age, appearance, or societal expectations. The judge, having regained his composure, addressed the courtroom. He spoke of the importance of fairness, humility, and open-mindedness. He praised the teenager for his remarkable performance and acknowledged the lesson that everyone could learn from the experience. His words carried weight, as they were not only about legal outcomes but also about the deeper understanding of human potential and respect for ability. Meanwhile, spectators and legal professionals continued to discuss the significance of the case. Many realized that they had witnessed a rare demonstration of brilliance, one that combined knowledge, empathy, and strategy in a way that was both effective and inspiring. The teenager's performance had set a new standard for courtroom excellence, showing that true skill involves not only intellect but also understanding, compassion, and the ability to communicate effectively. In the days following the case, the story of the young attorney spread. It became an example of how perseverance, preparation, and a calm, thoughtful approach could overcome skepticism and challenge assumptions. Schools, legal communities, and media outlets highlighted the importance of recognizing hidden talent and the value of encouraging young people to develop their abilities. The teenager's actions resonated widely, inspiring others to believe in their potential and to approach challenges with confidence and integrity. The teenager himself remained focused on the journey ahead. He continued to study, learn, and apply his skills, knowing that the case had been an important step in his development. He understood that recognition and admiration were secondary to the responsibility that came with knowledge and ability. His actions demonstrated that true excellence lies not in seeking praise, but in understanding, preparing, and acting with integrity. Reflecting on the lessons of the case, it became clear that this experience had implications far beyond the courtroom. It reminded everyone that judging others by appearances can be misleading, and that talent, insight, and character often reside where least expected. The teenager had shown that age and experience are not the sole measures of capability, and that courage and preparation can allow anyone to achieve remarkable outcomes. For the judge, the opposing counsel, and the spectators, the case became a point of reference, a story to remember and share. It illustrated the power of intelligence combined with empathy, the importance of humility, and the lasting impact of challenging assumptions. The teenager's quiet confidence, strategic thinking, and human-centric approach left a legacy that extended beyond the legal victory, influencing those who witnessed it to reconsider their perceptions and expectations. As the days passed, the courtroom experience continued to resonate. Discussions and reflections emphasized the key messages the teenager had demonstrated. Preparation, composure, empathy, and intelligence are crucial, and true talent cannot be measured by appearance alone. His performance was a reminder of the potential in everyone and the importance of recognizing and nurturing ability, regardless of age or background. The teenager continued his path, carrying the lessons from the case forward. He remained dedicated, humble, and focused, embodying the principles he had demonstrated in court. His actions inspired others to pursue excellence, to challenge assumptions, and to approach every challenge with preparation, calm, and insight. The story of his remarkable performance became a testament to the extraordinary outcomes that can emerge when intelligence, empathy, and integrity converge, leaving a lasting impression on all who witnessed it.